let's go over the parts inside of this gaming PC before we go over all of the benchmarks and that kind of stuff. We are going to be doing 1080p, 1440p, and 4K i9-14900. Yes, fully aware that there's a lot of stuff going on with Intel right now, but I gotta be completely honest with you on this one. I have built hundreds of computers over the past year with the 14th generation CPUs, and I'm going to say probably about 60 or 70 of them have been with the i9-14900K, 14900KS, 14900KF. I have tried them all, and not one person, including myself, have run into a problem with the CPU. Yes, there have been times where we need to update our BIOS, but that kind of comes along with having a high-end computer. That is something that everybody should do like at least once a year. So second, we're going to be going over the RTX 4070, specifically the Galax RTX 4070. I personally really like this one because of the RGB lights that are on the fans. It goes incredibly well with any case that has one of the vertical GPU mounts. For those of you that are unaware, like the Height Y60, the Height Y70, and then there's a bunch of PCIe extensions that you can install if you were to use the Lian Li case, which, since we're going over cases right now, let's use that as a third thing. Unfortunately, this is constantly running out of stock on Amazon, and it's running out of stock for a very good reason, and that is because the Lian Li O11 Dynamic Evo is hands down the most premium, luxurious feeling case that you can build in. I've used them all, and it feels so premium, it feels so rugged, it feels so heavy duty. And anybody that has built multiple computers with different cases and then used the Lian Li O11 Dynamic Evo, you completely understand what I am saying about this. And I am talking about all of them. This includes the other Lian Li cases. It is my favorite case to build in just because of the way it feels when you're building in it. Yes, there are definitely like cooler, more unique cases out there, but at least in my opinion, the feeling and the lack of frustration building in this case because of how it is designed is it's such a good experience. So if anybody watching this is building their first computer, get this case, please, because it is going to bring you joy building computers. So let's go over the next thing. The EK Nucleus AIO, again, just like the first thing that we covered, fully aware that there's a lot of stuff going on with the EK right now, but putting the drama aside, their products are good. There's no denying that. So yes, I'm fully aware that EK is maybe not the best company out there, but if we're all really honest right now, let's just put that aside. There is not one big company on this planet, big business. I'm not talking about your little mom and pop shop down the corner. I'm talking about massive companies like Nvidia, Intel, EK Nucleus, Sony, Xbox, all these companies, man, there's not one good one. Let's just be real, okay? So the AIO itself performs really well, and I have this in my personal computer as well, and so I should tell you something. I like the way it looks because it has this super futuristic alien vibe. That's the only way that I can think to explain it, which kind of goes to explain its name, Nucleus. It just has that really cool I don't know, it just, if you're seeing it in the footage, that the B-roll that I have going on, it just looks really cool. So the NVMe SSD that we ended up getting inside of this computer is the WD Black. It's just a 1 terabyte SN850X. When you're getting an NVMe, which we're going to go over the next part here, the motherboard, but when you're getting an NVMe, you need to make sure that you're looking at the generation of this NVMe, and then also making sure that your motherboard is going to support those speeds, because even if you get whatever, a Gen 4 or Gen 5, or depending on when you're watching this, Gen 6, Gen 7, you need to make sure that your motherboard is going to support those speeds, because you're just going to be getting an NVMe that isn't offering, or that you're going to be getting an NVMe that isn't giving you the speeds that your motherboard is capable of giving you. So if you're getting a Gen 4 NVMe, you need to make sure that you're your motherboard is also going to support those Gen 4 speeds, because for reasons I need to explain. So it will function on your motherboard and you will get the maximum speed that your motherboard offers, but you're not going to be getting that Gen 4 type of speed. WD Black, Western Digital, they're a great company. When it comes down to NVMEs, I really don't like getting the the only way that I can think to explain it is just by saying the unreputable brands, because I'm not saying that they're bad brands. It's just they're starting out. And with something like an NVMe, you know, your entire computer is running in that. Like the games that you're playing are going to be running off the NVMe. Your operating system going to be running off that. All the applications, everything is running off of that NVMe. So if you have a bunch of files, you know, like I like to play it safe. I have had what I'm pretty sure it's called the Silicon Power, and then the Fianx. I think that's how you explain it. I've ran into a problem with the Silicon Power. I actually built a computer for my niece for the holiday. I want to say it's been about a year. It could have been 2 years. Time is kind of frozen in my mind now that I'm getting older. It doesn't really exist in my brain anymore. But I can't remember if it was the Silicon Power or the Fianx. I know it was one of those. The computer was having a lot of problems, and it was because of that NVMe drive. So like you can imagine like my frustration as somebody that is building computers all the time. It's like I wasn't expecting it to be the NVMe drive because I had never run into that issue before. Since I'm not saying that they're brand new, but NVMe SSDs, they are still fairly new. You know what I mean? It's not like they've been around for the past 10 years. We went from hard drives to SSDs, and then we got the NVMe SSDs. And even then, it was like we went from Gen 1 to Gen 2 to Gen 3 to Gen 3.5 to Gen 3 and 4. And it's like there's like 50 different ones that you can get. So my point in saying that is because I got new RAM. I took the RAM out, put new RAM in, only used one stick, used different slots, swapped the CPU, swapped the GPU, swapped the power supply. I literally swapped everything inside of that, except for the motherboard. I swapped everything inside of that computer out with new parts. And of course, it's just how my luck rolls. It was the last part in that computer build. It was the NVMe. So the reason I went on to explain that is because if you're going to be getting an NVMe drive, you really want to make sure that you're getting it from a reputable company. Western Digital, Kingston, Samsung. Those are just a couple of the ones that are off the top of my mind, but you kind of know. A Team Group is another good company. Like they haven't been around as long as the other ones, but they're a company that I fully support, and I get the RAM all the time, which is literally what I got in this computer. So just keep that in mind. Just get an NVMe drive from a good company. They're all pretty much the exact same as far as like how it's going to impact your wallet. So just keep that in mind. So the next thing we're going to be covering here is the MSI Z790 Edge Ti Max motherboard specifically. Now, when the Z790s first ended up coming out, I got the original MSI Z790 Edge non-TI version. They look very, very similar. I'm pretty sure the only difference here is the NVMe and then the Wi-Fi speeds. So if you're looking to build a computer, the BIOS is going to be pretty similar. The features are going to be pretty similar. It really just comes down to what type of NVMe you're going to be getting. The Wi-Fi, and I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure. I know it's either the NVMe or the Wi-Fi. I know it's only like one or two differences from the other motherboard. But the reason that I like this so much is because I've always been an ASUS person. I love and I still love the Armoury Crate application that ASUS offers. It is superior to what MSI has. ASUS has, without a single doubt in my mind, they offer the best application when it comes down to like whatever, the RGB on your motherboard, like changing the speeds in your BIOS. So I actually do like the BIOS for MSI more, but the application that ASUS offers is just it's incredible. But the MSI Z790 Edge, the non-TI version, that was the first motherboard that I was able to install 4 sticks of DDR5 and enable the XMP profile. So once that was stable, I was actually able to go back into that BIOS and overclock the RAM, and it was still stable. And that was when I started to just like constantly get MSI motherboards for the Z790 platform, until I ran into a problem with I want to say it was one of the black, I want to say the MSI Mag motherboard. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a PCIe problem. Where the top PCIe, there was like a lot of the motherboards where there was a bunch of them that had like a top PCIe problem, and you would have to install your graphics card on the bottom PCIe, or if you got a CPU that had integrated graphics, you could also do that. And then you had to update your BIOS in order to actually even use the top PCIe, which if anybody was unaware of that, you would be building your computer and nothing would be working, and you'd be wondering like, what part inside of my computer isn't working? And they were all working. It was just you needed to update your BIOS. Like everything was functioning properly. So that was like when I started, like I was whatever, I'm gonna start getting the Gigabyte motherboards as well, the Asus motherboards, ASRock, and all of that. So the MSI Z790 Edge, it's awesome motherboard. I love it. I've used it quite a few times. It's in my personal computer and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, great motherboard. Highly recommend that. As far as the RAM goes, we just got Team Group T-Force DDR5, specifically the CL30. This is the first time that I have actually seen this listed on Amazon. All the other ones are like CL40, CL48, or 38, and that kind of stuff. And for those of you that are unaware, that is the timing of the RAM. It's not the speeds of the RAM it's not just the speed of the RAM that matters. If you get RAM that's like let's just toss some random numbers out there to make it the explanation more understandable to those of you that are listening to me here. Let's say we get some DDR5 that's running at 10,000 megahertz, but it's CL40. If you get that exact same brand that's running at, or let's say it's 5,000 megahertz, but it's CL30, it's going to be pretty similar. It's going to be right on par with the other option that's literally like 10 times the amount. So you need to make sure that you're checking that. Honestly, Corsair is really good with this, but the problem with Corsair is that they force you to install their RGB application, and I despise companies that do that. I don't like it when companies are like, oh, hey, your motherboard offers the RGB options, but we're going to force you to also install our application just so that you can change the color of your RAM. I don't like that. And honestly, that's really the main reason that I don't get the DDR5 RAM from Corsair, is because their lack of, I want to say, human courtesy, that's the only way I think to explain it, is really the main reason that I don't like it. Corsair is a great company. They have some of the coolest cases out there. I love their fans, their AIOs. They are a good company, but it's just the RGB, man. It just doesn't make sense to me why they force you to install their application. Asus is like Armory Crate, and I know that like MSI and Gigabyte and ASRock and like, I know that other companies don't necessarily have the best application when it comes down to that kind of stuff, but Asus is like, I don't think I need to go on there. Team Group T-Force DDR5 RAM. It's a great, set of DDR5, and you're going to be, if you have the MSI application, the Asus application, all of them, if you have that, you're going to be able to change the color of it. You don't need to go download Team Group's application in order to change the color of it. And that's really the main reason that I'm constantly getting this, is because it's a good value. You can change the color on your own. And then on top of that, the CL30, the timing, there's the first time that I've seen it, and that made me really happy to see that. So let's move on here. We got a Be Quiet BN513 power supply. Be Quiet is a great company. I've been supporting them for a very long time, specifically the 1200 watt power supply. I really built this to future-proof the owner of it. I don't want them to, they literally live the entire, the whole country. So like, it's not, I don't want them to like have to ship the computer back to me, or even like just upgrade it and bring it to somebody local. I really wanted them to just be able to take out the GPU and swap the GPU if they ever decide to upgrade. And the way that I built this computer, everything is top of the line. So that is going to be very simple for them to do. Like, they're not going to have to bring it to some local tech shop or a PC shop, and then they're going to tell them, oh, we need to swap the power supply in order to use this graphics card, and we also need to swap the CPU so that your CPU is also supporting the speeds that your graphics card is going to be capable of, and then also swap the RAM because the RAM isn't going to be communicating with CPU, and then the NVMe. So like, I didn't want to do that. And this is one of the main reasons people do not like pre-built computers, is because the way these companies get around the actual cost of a good computer is they use the cheapest motherboard possible, the cheapest power supply possible, the slowest NVMe possible, slowest RAM possible, and they just build these computers to look neat. And then they also include like the CPU and the GPU on the top of the actual computer. And the reason that they do that is because that is what the normal person is going to see. They're going to be like, oh, it has an i9 in it, and oh, it has a 4090 in it. But what they're not understanding is that the motherboard, the everything else inside of that computer is just like the bottom of the barrel. And then the time the new line of graphics cards comes out, they're either going to have to get an entire new computer, or they're going to have to bring it to a tech shop and basically rebuild a brand new computer with all kinds of different stuff because they got something that wasn't built properly. And so anyways, that was a pretty long explanation for a power supply there. And then the next two things, just some really simple stuff, is just the up here fans. Use these all the time. And then the Acer Horse power supply extensions, again, use them all the time. Those are two very simple things to explain. The up here fans, I have run into a problem with one of the owners that I built a computer for a couple of years ago, where one of the fans stopped working after about a year. But that's the only time that I've ever run into a problem with these fans, and I just sent them enough to get some new fans to replace that. But other than that, they're the only ones that have ever had a problem with it. Real quick, just wanted to say that if you would like a PC from me, my Facebook business page is linked down in the description below. I do not charge you anything other than the cost of parts, which I do in fact give you a full list of everything with the final cost before I order it all with my own money. You do not pay me anything until you see the video, the performance, the benchmarks, and all of that kind of stuff. So again, link down in the description below.